let me ask you, Chris Carl. I pose to you, sir. Super Troopers 2. Speaking about movies that people have been wanting to see, waiting to see.
Yeah.
You've got some news on this.
Yeah.
front.
I mean, I like those guys a lot. I talked to them.
Broken Lizard guys.
Yeah, I love the Broken Lizard guys. I talked to Jay and Kevin Heffernan. Jay Chandrasekhar. And everybody thought I was going to avoid that name, but anyway, so Jay and Kevin, I talked to those guys heading into the Indiegogo campaign, their campaign to fund the thing, and essentially, you know, they were looking for $2 million. They met that goal in a day, which is awesome. You know, we've talked a little bit about crowdfunding here, and I think one of the biggest misconceptions is that some of these people, like, one of the things that I think is a misconception is that these movies would just get made anyway. I can guarantee you that these guys have been trying to make this movie for many years, and just haven't been able to get the financing for it.
And it's not like the first one didn't make money.
Yeah, it made some money. I mean, it didn't blow up in the theater, but it was
relative
kind of like
to what
Office
it cost and stuff,
Yeah.
you know, it's like
it was like Office Space. It didn't do super well in the release, and then it like gathered a cult following. But you know, you think about these kinds of campaigns, it's like, for me, something like this is one of those campaigns that I would personally, you know, say like, oh yeah, I would consider funding this because I know that if I want this movie, this is the only way that it's going to happen.
Right.
At least in the short term, unless, you know, something else big would happen for Broken Lizard. I just don't think so. I mean, I think the biggest sort of profile thing that they did outside of Super Troopers was this Dukes of Hazzard movie.
Yeah.
And
because they did what, Club Dread too?
They did Club Dread, and they did Beer Fest, which I actually really liked.
I mean, I do feel like they're kind of a comedy troupe that was whose heyday was about 8 years ago, maybe.
Yeah. I think early sort of 2000s, mid 2000s was the thing. But now they're coming back, and they funded this campaign. And I think, you know, they've got like 30 days left in the campaign.
But they've already met.
They met the goal, but they've got 30 days left in the campaign, which means the movie's just going to get better and better. You know, like that's the whole idea is like. And I'm not like shilling for them. I think it's just that's the reality of the situation. Is if you have $2 million to make a movie, that's one thing. If you have, you know, $15 million to make a movie, well, then maybe you can afford to get Brian Cox back.
Yeah.
Maybe you can get, you know, some other actors in there that you wouldn't be able to afford.
Cox don't come cheap, is what you're saying.
Cox costs money. I'm sorry. Sorry about that. Anyway, but here's an interesting debate that you and I think, are on differing sides of. And given all this, given all this, the fact that I think these guys are like normal guys. It's not like they're it's not like they're like bazillionaires living in mansions, you know, in the clouds or anything. But there are people who fund campaigns like this, who have a lot of money, or
Nathan
you know,
Fillion's
who put campaigns like this out there. How do you feel? Do you feel like it, let's just say you have a bunch of money and we don't, you know, it doesn't, let's just do it all hypothetically. Let's say you have a bunch of money.
Scrooge McDuck.
McScrooge McDuck, yeah. I don't know why I called him McScrooge McDuck. I want to make him extra Mickey. That sounded super racist. It is, and I'm sorry.
Actually, but it's got a Disney thing to it too.
It works. Yeah. So riddle me this. If there is a wealthy individual who turns to Indiegogo or Kickstarter to fund a movie, are you fundamentally opposed to that, or are you okay with that?
I just if you believe in something strong enough, you should be willing to pay for it yourself. It's kind of like when rich kids find a way to get a lot of financial aid. You know what I mean? Like, you know, there's some poor struggling kid who maybe didn't know how to work the system well enough, and it shouldn't be that cutthroat. You know, I feel like it's if you really believe in it that much, you will dig into your own pocket. Like, you know, like I think Nathan Fillion was doing like a Kickstarter or something, and the fact that he is now a far wealthier guy because he's been on Castle, stuff like that. I feel like, you know, that kind of irritates me. The Super Trooper guys do it, not so much, because I know that they're not. I'm sure some of them probably still just have apartments. You know, like I have a feeling they're not, you know, driving around. You know,
they're not sitting there like balling out of control. Everybody in Bentleys. I think probably some of them drive Hondas. You know.
And I do think
maybe
that
not.
It
Sorry,
depends,
if you guys are mega rich, cool.
Yeah, I think it all depends on the the individuals doing it, the nature of the project, and how much money it requires. Look, if you're trying to raise 30 million, you know, go talk to a German banker. Don't go online and do it. But if you want 2 million and you've made, like somebody like, I guess like Zach Braff kind of springs to mind, like you've got Scrubs.
He's got that Scrubs money.
You know, like I'm sorry, you shouldn't go around looking for,
okay.
unless it's going to become a thing where everyone in a way gets their name in the credits, they get something out of it. If you're just basically shaking a virtual can at people and saying, you know, give me some change.
Well,
no,
interestingly enough, one of the things that came out of this conversation with the Super Troopers guys is that they talked about Indiegogo and how Indiegogo wants to evolve into a platform that actually lets people become producers on projects. So it's kind of like crowd-funded, but these people will have more of a say in the production and also maybe a say in some of the profits.
Yeah, boy, is that opening a can of worms though.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's complicated.
Think about the legal issues that alone.
Sure.
Okay, let's not. I know I get the reputation for being a catastrophist, but let's just say you're doing this kind of indie-funded, crowd-funded movie, and like most budgets, you know, smaller budgeted films, you're going to cheat. Maybe you don't get permits and you're filming somewhere. What if, like in this Midnight Rider movie, what if somebody got killed?
Oh,
Does that mean, okay,
just thinking about that
all 200 people that gave money, are you now all legally responsible? If you're on there as a producer, you can all get dragged into court?
I don't think on that particular thing, because they're not culpable on set, you know? On set, it's...
Some of the people that, you know...
The people who were cited in that particular case were all part of the decision-making process, at least.
Yeah.
So, like, I think, yeah, I mean, you would need to be legally protected, but... to get back to sort of the original debate, I personally think that anybody should be able to do one of these projects, mainly because I think it is a choice that the end user is making, whether they want to contribute to that thing or not. And sure, somebody who's got a really high profile is probably going to have more fans naturally, but I don't personally have any problem with it if it is like, if you're a mega fan of a property, you're not going to see it as, oh, hey, I'm being leeched off of for this thing. I will pay a lot of money.
But yeah.
I mean, you may not, though, but I will pay a lot of money for the things that are important to me to get an experience that I otherwise wouldn't have in life. And so, like,
I suppose
in that way, I'm kind of like, okay, some of the lower end rewards are the ones that make me feel like, oh, that you're not getting that much.
Yeah.
Some of the like mid awards are kind of like, oh, okay, that I can see as a true fan, as a big fan of this person or this project, like that's the stuff that I would be really, really interested in.
Right.
Or like if you can afford it. I mean, if you could afford to have all 5 Super Troopers show up at your wedding in costume and bring you a present, which is one of the rewards on this particular thing, then like what a cool experience for you as a mega fan. It's going to cost you $25,000. But if you're a rich kid who dodged financial aid, I'm bringing it back.
That's right.
Anyway, so that's my take on it. I mean,
it's like, I'm not saying that legally they shouldn't be allowed to do it. I'm just saying they go and do it, kind of a D-bag, but you know.
I don't know. I mean, well, I think my final point is that it is
You're
really,
a cheapskate, but
really hard to get movies made in Hollywood.
Yeah.
You know, it's really hard. It's almost a miracle sometimes. Yeah. And so, like, if this is the thing that pushes certain projects over the edge, like Veronica Mars, would not have happened were it not for that campaign.
If I'm remembering correctly, didn't that ultimately lose money?
Veronica Mars?
Yeah.
It probably did. And so that's the other argument is like, you may still, these guys who produce this thing may still be on the hook for some of that expense. Or the studio might look at that and say, oh, hey, that was Kickstarted. That didn't do so hot. Yeah. Maybe there's a reason we didn't finance in the first place. Maybe we kind of know what we're doing with this whole financing thing. Yeah. But they don't always. They don't. We talk about that here all the time.
Yeah, but let us know what you think in the comments about you know, these kind of crowd-funded movies. You know, should people who could ostensibly afford to pay for a project ask for your money? Would you be willing to do it, and why? So let us know in the comments what you think of that.